Growing up, what inspired you to get into the restaurant business?
Yeah.
What would you tell yourself at 10 years old?
So tell us a little bit about Caribbean Soul. What are you guys most known for?
Doubling down, waiting on an open, or are you modifying, pivoting, and figuring out a way to kind of bring back a take-up?
What do you feel that the biggest unknown about real estate for you is?
Friend of me, any me. All these niggas just wanna be a mini me. All these niggas just wanna be a mini me. All these niggas just wanna be a mini me. Friend of me, any me. All these niggas just wanna be a mini me. All these niggas just wanna be a mini me. All these niggas just wanna be a mini me. Friend of me, any me. All these niggas just wanna be a mini me. All these niggas just wanna be a mini me. All these niggas just wanna be a mini me. Friend of me, any me. All these niggas just wanna be a mini me. All these niggas just wanna be a mini me. All these niggas just wanna be a mini me.
I'm about to go Goku. Leave all my haters red like old news. Yeah, trying to get the green like it's Whole Foods. Couldn't take my style and now you so blue. Yeah, now we don't even know you.
Yeah. Growing up, what inspired you to get into the restaurant business?
Yeah, restaurant business is definitely a family business. My father, my mother, they were the originators of Caribbean cuisine in this area. My mother still has a Jamaican restaurant not too far from here. And it's been there for about 45 years.
That's awesome. Okay, and what would you tell yourself at 10 years old? If you could give yourself advice at 10 years old, what would you tell yourself?
Don't stress. Everything's going to be all right, and just don't quit.
Right, absolutely. That's a big one, especially in the wake of everything that's happening right now. And you know that your industry, food industry, has taken like one of the largest hits because you know you're a dine-in restaurant, and now that indoor dining is not really allowed or at limited capacity, you know, keeping that same energy of not quitting, knowing that things will get better, I guess is definitely, you know, the great
Because
attitude.
it's difficult because we renovated 3 years ago.
Right.
And we changed the model from a takeout restaurant to a dining restaurant.
Right.
And now takeout restaurants are the only thing that can open, so it's kind of tough.
Right. So when we came here today, we saw that you guys were doing renovations. So you're doubling down, waiting on an open, or are you modifying, pivoting, and figuring out a way to kind of bring back a takeout?
We're not bringing back the takeout, but we are modifying, pivoting, hoping for when the pandemic slows down or ends, we'll be prepared, trying to space out tables, doing filtration systems for our AC. We created a new storefront and where it would be an open air concept where the storefront would just be open. So yeah.
That's awesome. And I mean, that's also kind of on par with what's been, I feel like, an established style of restaurant in the Caribbean. Also in Europe, you have a lot of open air where the restaurant front opens completely and it's cafe style. And I think for a long time, you know, I know for myself when I travel, I'm like, why don't we have more of that here? So this is like the transition and the impetus to like push it in that direction.
Right. And luckily you have this great outdoor space here because I know it's a little congested downstairs right on Merrick Boulevard. So to have the outdoor eating, it probably would have been
The outdoor eating up here is a little more intimate. And secluded, so
you're away from the traffic.
You're not at the bus stop. You're not, away from the traffic, and you feel safe.
So tell us a little bit about Caribbean Soul. What are you guys most known for?
We're known for quality, good Caribbean food and good service.
Right. So I see that you brought out 2 amazing dishes here. Would you like to tell us a little bit about them?
This is our soul pasta, and this is our oxtail and red wine sauce.
Right, and these are some of your best sellers?
These are 2 of our signature dishes. Yes.
I must say that I've been here on several occasions myself, and the food is amazing. The drinks are also amazing. That rum punch. That rum punch hits the spot, guys. That rum punch hits the spot.
Are these family recipes, or is one newer, one's older? Can you give me a little history?
Well, oxtail is a classic dish from Jamaica. It's become a delicacy and really expensive now. We put a twist on it. We cook it in a red wine sauce. And the thing with Caribbean Soul, our food is not your regular food that you would see on any normal or takeout or any other Jamaican restaurant. So we fused different Caribbean and soul food combinations together, and to give you a more enjoyable evening.
Where's your favorite place that you've ever been?
Jamaica is number one, but Dubai is also great. Um, St. Thomas, St. Croix, St. Lucia.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Now, as a minority business owner, what do you feel you would like to give as advice or tips or wish that things were different that would make it easier for other minority business owners to get in business? What did you find as being one of your hurdles when you were trying to open up this restaurant, and what did you do to overcome that hurdle?
I would say financial literacy. Most of my lessons are financial, so tax preparation, ways on getting loans from banks, understanding what underwriters are looking for, how to pivot or refinance your property. So it's a lot of financial do's and don'ts that a lot of small business owners don't know.
Yeah, right. What would you recommend that somebody that wants to get into the restaurant business now know that they need to prepare for, that they would have never had to prepare for pre-pandemic?
It's a 24-hour job.
Right.
So if you're prepared to work and you love what you do, I would go for it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not a 9-to-5 job. It's not a only on the weekends job. This is small business. Is your life. It's a lifestyle. So.
As you know, we're realtors, and what we want to know is, what do you feel that the biggest unknown about real estate for you is?
The closing costs are very confusing sometimes.
Okay.
Price of the closing cost and seller concessions sometimes can be confusing.
Okay.
Yeah, there's certain little intricacies I think are pretty confusing when it comes to closing.
So with closing costs, there's like a few things that come together and make closing costs. So it's always bank specific. So one of the biggest fees in a closing cost is not actually a fee. It's the escrow of the taxes. So if you buy a property and the taxes are $12,000 a year, some banks will say, well, we want to hold 8 months of tax payments in case you stop paying the mortgage, and we don't have to come out of pocket. Because in the hierarchy of who has claim on the property first, the bank always comes second to the state. So if nobody pays their real estate tax, then the bank could be owed $500,000, and the county or the state could be owed $4,000. And then the county will auction off the property for $4,000.
Right.
So that's why banks will escrow money for taxes. The other bill that you're going to have is going to be your title insurance, your title bill. That's usually a pretty hefty chunk.
Right.
Where people, I feel, sometimes don't pay attention is when you borrow a loan, you're going to pay points to bring your interest rate down. Points are usually 1% of what you borrow. So if you pay a quarter point, it's 0.25%. So when you are looking at fees in general, sometimes people only focus on the interest rate, and they say, well, this broker told me I can get it for 2.5, and this bank said I can get it for 2.75. Sometimes it's better to go on the higher rate because you're not getting banged over the head with closing costs. Because there's always someone that's getting their hands washed in a deal. You know what I mean? So I think closing costs should be given as much weight as an interest rate is. Because sometimes you can be eligible for programs at a big bank or at a little mortgage brokerage or direct lender, but it's a real full picture. And I think a lot of people, just even realtors, to be quite honest with you, that don't understand the mortgage process, they focus on one thing and one thing only. What's the interest rate? And there's other things that you got to focus on, because sometimes you could be paying an extra $5,000 in closing costs because your interest rate was really a quarter point less, but you didn't realize that they brought that interest rate down, charged you points, and hid the fees somewhere else. So I think that we've noticed, and something that we've talked about, is our desire to educate people in underserviced communities and underserved communities about the importance of financial health, because what you do now will affect you for the next 10 years.
Right.
Your credit report goes for 10 years. So there's a lot of times where people will sign up for stuff or take student loans out or take mortgages out, and they put themselves in a position where they're set up to fail.
Right. I think it's more so like grassroots financial literacy. The goal is to increase homeownership throughout the minority communities, because everyone knows that real estate homeownership is how you build generational wealth, right? When you really think about it. And I feel like in our communities, and for some of us who are first generation immigrants or others are immigrants ourselves, we're not really given the tools of how to succeed at that. And then when that time comes and you want to move forward, you may not have the foundation, the steady foundation in order to move forward with that process. So what we were thinking to do is create an informational session. Well, we wanted it to be live, but now post-COVID, everything has to be virtual. Right. Basically, where we're teaching people how to set themselves up, not to buy a house this year or next year, but somewhere down the line, but just laying that foundation, getting their credit together, getting their down payments together, having their ducks in line in order to make that big step.
Purchasing a home is a process.
Absolutely, and I think a lot of people don't truly understand that.
You can't just get up tomorrow and say you want to purchase a home.
Right. Unless you already have had those things in line,
Yeah.
And also the importance of, like, if you are getting to like a certain age and you're like, okay, you've got a significant other or you have children and you're like, you know what, I'm not ready to buy a house now, but now's the time I should reach out to a realtor and a mortgage broker to find out, given what my current situation is, what do I need to do to put myself in the best situation for 2 years from now?
Right.
Because anytime your credit is trashed, you are 2 years away from buying a house, because you can fix your credit. Right. You can fix your credit to the bank standards. If you sometimes people will close credit cards. It's better to have a credit card open that you don't use than it is to close it. So like there's little things that you can do. So if you're looking to buy real estate in 2 years, it's great to really get yourself in a really strong position. So even if you've screwed up in the last 5 years, you don't have to say, okay, I've got to wait and have a fresh start and perfect credit for 10 years. So we wanted to just, I've always kind of felt that like, so my father's an immigrant. He came here with nothing, and he did it. He did the best he could, and he figured it out. And by many people's estimates of him, he's a success. But my dad was always one of those people that was like super driven. So even when he was always like, if he had this figured out and he bought this house, now he's like, okay, but that's that. Now I got to figure something out, because what happens if something happens to that? So like, there's a way to integrate like a hustler spirit and a drive with bits of information that could have made him a million times more successful had he known. Like I'll tell you honestly, something that I did when I first opened up my business, I didn't realize that I should have everything in an LLC or an S corp because of taxation purposes. And that was an expensive lesson to learn my first year, when I was like, how much I gotta pay? Okay, you know what I mean? And had I known, but a lot of small business people have will, dedication, drive, have a niche that they're great at, maybe don't have all the background information.
Right.
So if you were to look in a glass bowl or crystal ball, crystal ball, where would you want to see yourself in 5 years?
5 years from now, I would love to expand the restaurant, buy another property, and just open another restaurant. Yeah, that'd be great.
So expand, invest, and buy and make another restaurant.
Right.
And would you want to stay in the same genre of food?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is what I know as well.
All right, Wayne. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to sit with us today. Absolutely.
We're about to wolf this down.
Yes.
It's delicious food. So if you want authentic, elevated Caribbean cuisine,
absolutely,
check out Caribbean Soul.
right.
All right.
Your hometown, we don't need go to. Trying to get it worldwide, global. Looking, I can show you. Been killing this since O2. Spiller, the Hope Mandela. Life so free, can't no man kill him. Came from the bottom, was a broke man. Get up, still move like 10 man with no found with them. Boom. Pardon me, I get hectic. Boom. I survive through the wreckage. You should go look for the exit. New sheriff in town, I get a little reckless. Missed the memo, go check the